Thanks. Okay, thanks, Phil. My name's Butch and I'm alcoholic. Hi, everybody. Does everybody see that thing on the screen that's still there? Or is it just me seeing that? Anyway, maybe it will go away. Anyway, I want to thank Ben and Phil for the opportunity of being here tonight, being part of the meeting, and I'm real grateful to be here in Kingsport, Tennessee. I gotta say, can you nod your head if you can you see Tim, that thing right in the center of the screen? No, it's just me. If I hit, I don't want a chance losing you. Well,
you continue. You're fine.
I got it now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I am some folks were talking about it on here before the meeting, and usually do. I got to tell you, I just cannot get used to this Zoom in the sense of how incredible this thing works. Now, I got to tell you, I'm not a technical guy. I gave up my BlackBerry this year, and it was a very traumatic year for me doing that. And I got one of these. I don't know if it's an iPhone or an Apple phone or what kind of phone, but it's got a lot of stuff you can do on it, but I don't know how to do any of it. And so when Zoom started, I was negative about it. I didn't want to go on Zoom, but I want to be honest with you. I'm going to be as honest with you as I can possibly be. But what it really was self-centered fear. That's what it was. I didn't understand this stuff. And so when I don't understand it, it's no good. And I don't want to do it. But just self-centered fear. And I want to be really honest with you, because it's more than that. Is this. Because I had some folks that I think very highly of, and that I've come and done things that I've asked them to do. And I had some folks asking me to come and share my story on this. And I was saying no. And I'll tell you why I was saying no, is the truth. The heartfelt truth of it is I was more concerned about how I'd sound than maybe helping one of God's kids. Now, I don't whip myself and beat myself up about that, but I want to be real clear to myself of how selfishness and self-centered can creep into my life. I don't care how long I'm sober. I don't care what I'm doing. It's still there. And it tells me that I need to be in the center of Alcoholics Anonymous more than I've ever been in the center. So I'm grateful to be here. Now, I got on this because in prayer, God said to me, how are you coming to this conclusion you shouldn't be doing it? So I started saying yes to Zoom, and it seems like I haven't shut my mouth for the past year. And the more I started to do this, it just blows my mind, doesn't it? It just blows my mind. The things that we can do with this is astonishing. It is absolutely incredible. The people that we get to meet, the different folks, we see how truly big Alcoholics Anonymous is, don't we? When we see people on here from all over the world, from Australia and Ireland and Scotland, and all over the world in that. I get to see some folks. I got a few good friends of mine on this screen tonight. I see them more on this Zoom than I ever saw them in person before. And it's incredible tool. Don't get me wrong. It has been 15 months since I have been in a live meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I cannot wait to hear that chatter in the room. I cannot wait to hear when you say your name and people say it back to you. But this Zoom has saved us, I'll tell you. And I am astounded that when we shut down a year ago, March, when really the world shut down, and Alcoholics Anonymous, man, they didn't miss a beat. They were onto this thing. They were all over this thing in a matter of days. And they have put things on all over the world. And so I have a deep gratitude for the people who work on this, guys like Phil and many people on this screen who put these meetings and conferences together on Zoom for someone like me. And I want to express my gratitude to you. I hope we got some new folks here. I see there's a some of you won't recognize it if you're not from here, but Renaissance Sullivan House, that's a treatment center in Toronto, Canada. It's good to see you boys. They're clapping and that there now. You're the guys I'm here to talk to tonight. That's who I like to talk to, those new members, Alcoholics Anonymous. So welcome, guys. We're glad to have you here tonight. Unfortunately, you have to put up with me, but don't worry, you'll get through it. Anyway, I better get started here. 50 minutes can go quick, or it can go long if you're listening. But my home group is the Three Legacies group, Alcoholics Anonymous, and we meet Mondays and Thursdays just outside the city of Toronto. And if you're ever in our area, we'd love to have you there. I'm a group guy. I believe in the home group. I believe that the home group is the heartbeat of AA. That's not podium banter. I believe that with all my heart. Home group. I believe that home group should feel what it's called, home. That when I walk into that room on Monday and Thursday nights, I feel like I'm at home. I am grounded. I'm together when I'm in that room. And I belong to a strong group, Alcoholics Anonymous. I used to say I belong to the best group in the world. I don't say that any longer. I find it arrogant of me. But I belong to a strong group, Alcoholics Anonymous, a group where all three legacies are in place, where recovery is there, where we study and teach the 12 steps out of our basic text. But there's more, where there's unity, where we operate under the umbrella of our 12 traditions. They're not something that's just stuck on the wall to be read once a week, but where we study them and teach them and apply them as group and members of a group. I belong to a group that believes in service, where it's not one or two individuals constantly doing everything, but where we operate and function together as a group to carry the message to the alcoholic. We don't put on coffee and hope they come. We go get them. We have committees that go to that detox every Monday and Thursday night and bring those new folks to our meeting. And if you come to our home group on a Monday or Thursday, there'll be 6 or 7 people at that door to welcome you, because I'm a guy that believes that's the single most important thing that we do as a home group. The single most important thing we do is to be at that door when that new guy or new gal walk through for their first meeting, because an in-depth version of step 4 doesn't mean a damn thing to them, but a warm handshake, welcome, get a cup of coffee and come and sit here with us means a great, great deal. I belong to a group where there's enthusiasm. You're going to find this hard to believe tonight, but I'm an enthusiastic guy. I like enthusiasm. And I love my home group, and I'm talking to the converted here. I know you love your home group too. But don't you love that when you get in there, Phil, you walk in and there's that laughter in the room. There's that energy in the room. There's a buzz. There's a chatter. It's just like being in a bar. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Everybody talking, nobody listening. Nobody listening. Alcoholics, the most self-centered people in the world. Have you ever tried to talk to somebody after the meeting? 10 people walk up and say, I don't mean to interrupt. Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Alcoholics, more self-centered. And I love that. And it is important that we have that laughter in the room. It is important that those new people hear that laughter and know that we're not a glum lot, and that we absolutely insist upon enjoying life. And there's much more to Alcoholics Anonymous than just not drinking and going to meetings. So I am happy to be here in Tennessee tonight at a strong group, Alcoholics Anonymous. I was 4 years old. I was 4 years old, and my ma's neighbor, now this guy didn't know my ma too good, but he felt he needed to make the effort. And he came to my mother's house and knocked on our door. My mom let him in. We had a little home. I was sitting in the living room, and he walked in and he pointed over to me sitting in the living room, and he said to my mother, he said, I want you to know that you're raising a juvenile delinquent. I'm 4 years old, for God's sakes, and this guy's calling me a juvenile delinquent. Now, I got to tell you, that guy turned out to be a prophet. He was a prophet, that guy. I'm 10 years old, 11 years old, and I'm in school. I'm in a classroom, and the teacher announces that there's going to be a walkathon. I don't know if you have this in Tennessee or not, but where you get people to pledge money and you walk a lot of miles and the poor people get the money. And she said, I want you to come up here and get the sheets to get your pledges on. Now, I sat at the back of the class where the smart kids sit, and I made a conscious decision from the time I got to the back of the class to the front of the class, I'm taking 2 sheets. One for the poor people, one for me. I figure if I'm walking, I'm getting some of the green. And that's how I was to go through the next 20 years of my life. Lying, cheating, and stealing. Some sort of sense of entitlement. That I don't need to do a hard day's work for a good day's pay like other people. I go out in that world and I take what I want. And I'm an extreme example of self-will run riot, and I haven't even started doing serious drinking yet. I'm 25 years old, and by now my wife has thrown me out of our home. And I want to tell you that I loved her as much as I was capable of loving at that time. It's important that I say that to you, as much as I was capable of loving. I had a new address every night. I lived in the stairwells of apartment buildings in downtown Toronto. I just went from building to building. I had a new address each night. And at nighttime, I was under the stairwell in that building, and in the daytime, I was like a rat in a sewer, out in the streets looking to score, looking to scam, looking to rip somebody off to get the money I need to get to do the things I need to do. I hear people in Alcoholics Anonymous talk about AA luggage, matching green garbage bags. I didn't have any AA luggage. Had the clothes on my back. Still had an ultra suede jacket though. Going to be cool at any expense. I'm 25 years old. I'm living in stairwells of apartment buildings. I got the clothes on my back, and nobody wants anything more to do with me. And let me add right now, nor should they. Because alcoholics like me are users. I use from everybody that I come in contact with. It doesn't always appear that way because I'm always seeking your approval. I need everybody to like me. I'm the guy in the bar buying the drinks for everybody, passing a bag of powder around, everybody's friend, good old Butch. Let me tell you, the only reason I ever did anything for anyone was so you'd like me. Not because I cared about you. I couldn't care less if you lived or died. Made no difference to me. I'm a user. And I'll tell you who I take from most, the people who love me. Because they love me so much they can't stop trying. One more time. This time it's going to work. And they keep giving and giving. And I keep taking and taking till eventually I break their hearts. And those people who love me got to push me away because they can't stand to watch it any longer. And that's where I am. I'm in the East End of Toronto one night and I'm all jacked up and nowhere to go, as I said. And my wife and I owned a home in what they call the beaches down near the lakefront. And we had a screened-in porch and a couple wicker couches there. And I thought, I'm going to slip in there and get a couple hours and get out before she wakes up. Well, I pass out and I wake up to one of these. And I opened my eyes and looked, and there was that little gal that I loved. And she looked at me with disgust and pity. And she said, Butch, you're a useless piece of scum, and you will never change. And if you cared anything about me, you get up and get out of here, and please don't ever come back because I can't stomach to look at you. And I got up and I left there, and it was a hot, hot summer day. I'm hungover, I'm dirty, and I'm heartsick. And I walked down to what we call the boardwalk, down on the lakefront. And I'm sitting down there in that condition on a park bench. And 10 feet away on another bench, there was a little boy, 5 or 6 years old, sitting there eating a popsicle. And I looked over at that little boy, and you know what I thought to myself? I wish I had a dime for a popsicle. The big shot, the dope dealer, everybody's friend, good old Butch, sitting on a park bench, wishing he had a dime for a popsicle. Nobody in this world wanting anything more to do with me. And I had a thought as clear as I'm thinking right now. I knew at that moment that that park bench or somewhere like it was where I was going back to every single time. And I knew it beyond a shadow of a doubt. I was 25 years old. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 33. I had 8 more years on those streets. And I will not bore you tonight with a horror story because I don't believe it would serve any purpose. You see, if you're alcoholic like me, you already know. It never gets better. It always gets worse. And I had 8 more years on those streets. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 33 and I joined a group. And I got a sponsor. And I did the things you guys told me to do. Forget this suggested crap, the stuff you told me to do. You know where I was now a number of years ago? I was in Rome, Italy. Rome, Italy. Standing in the Sistine Chapel, looking at the paintings of Michelangelo from hundreds of years before, my wife standing beside me, and the tears started to roll down my cheeks. And I thought of that guy sitting on the park bench wishing he had a dime for a popsicle. Long way from that park bench to the Sistine Chapel in Rome. It is a long way from where you and I came from. Many of us here tonight, the dredges of society. Many of us here tonight, our own families didn't want us any longer. Yet here we sit tonight, members of Alcoholics Anonymous, maybe Al-Anon, living good, rich, full, productive lives. How do we get from where we were to where we sit tonight? How does that happen for you and I? Because it's not supposed to. But you know how it happens, don't you? It happens one way and only one way, and that is through the grace of God. Through a loving God, a forgiving God that you introduced me to through the 12 Steps Alcoholics Anonymous and a fellowship called Alcoholics Anonymous. You sure want to believe that I'm grateful to be here and be a part of this society. I started drinking at an early age. I hear people talk about dysfunctional families. Did I come from a dysfunctional family? I don't know. I said to my sponsor one time, I said, Bob, you think I came from a dysfunctional family? He said to me, you were in it. Cruel man, cruel man. I don't know if I came from a dysfunctional family or not, but let me tell you, it wasn't the Cleaver residence of my home. There was lots of parties in my home, lots of drinking, always on the weekend there was a party. As a little boy, they let me play bartender. I could take them drinks and take away the empties, and they'd let me have swigs, and they say, isn't he cute? So I started to drink when I was 4 years old. Now, I was not a drinker or a daily drinker when I was 4. My allowance wouldn't allow it. I actively sought out alcohol. I don't know, 12, 13 years old. I got a guy to go into a liquor store, get us a couple bottles of wine. I was going to be a wine connoisseur. 2 bottles of Old Sailor. I think that's comparable to what you call Thunderbird in your country. And I'm going to tell you, any wine I ever drank had a cap, not a cork. We drank that wine, got drunk, puked, and passed out, and that was the end of my social drinking. All downhill from there. Now, I got to ask you this. I don't know if you have this in Nashville or Tennessee or not, but I go to some meetings at home, and I hear people in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings say things like this. They say, I came to Alcoholics Anonymous hoping Alcoholics Anonymous was going to help me become a social drinker. You ever hear that, Claudia? Huh? Came to Alcoholics Anonymous hoping Alcoholics Anonymous is going to help them become a social drinker. Let me tell you tonight, I didn't want to be a social drinker when I drank. I don't want to be a social drinker tonight. I don't particularly like social drinkers. I find them weird. You ever watch a social drinker drink? They let the ice melt in their glass. That's sick drinking. That, my friends, is alcohol abuse. You ever drink with a social drinker? It's enough to make you puke, isn't it? You're having a few scoots. Would you like another one? Oh, no thanks. I'm starting to feel it. Really? I thought that's when you put it in overdrive. Social drinkers. Now, I got to tell you this right now. My beautiful wife, Dee, and that knows my wife, Dee, is a social drinker. She's in the living room right now. And a little while ago, Annette, I was at home. We have an open concept home. And I look over and Dee's in the kitchen and she's got a glass, a wine on, or a bottle of wine on the counter with a funnel in it. I thought to myself, what's she doing with that funnel? So I watched her. And Phil, she took a glass of wine and started pouring that wine into the funnel. And I said to her, hey, what are you doing over there? And she says to me, I put too much in the glass. Oh, Jesus, Murphy. I said, don't you ever do that again. I'll divorce you, social drinker. I'm a barroom drinker. I don't identify with closet alcoholics. Doesn't mean they're not alcoholic, but you know those people here, they get the bottle, go in and lock the door, put on the country western music. I don't identify. Barroom drinker. Love bars. I love them. I like opening the door to a bar. That smoke it billow out, the tinkle of glass, the smell of stale urine. I love it. I love it. And I got to tell you, I like neon. I like neon when I was drinking. I still like neon. That's why I stay out of those casinos. They're not good for guys like me. And I was going to an AA thing a number of years ago now in Pennsylvania. I decided to drive. My wife's coming with me. I'm driving through this little town in the middle of nowhere. I'm going down the main street and I hammer on the brakes to my car. I start to back my car. My wife said, Butch, what are you doing? I said, I got to see this again. Guys, there it was. This divey little juke joint had a neon sign. Said, stop for one, stay till one. Oh, if I'd have been drinking, I'd have had that tattooed on me. Work of art. Anyway, I'm not going to talk any more about my drinking tonight, other than to very quickly share with those new folks of what drinking does for an alcoholic of my type. And the things that I'm going to share with you, I did not know this when it was happening. Most of what I share with you, I didn't know when it was happening. I saw it in inventory. I saw it when you took me back through my life and helped me see my life honestly for the very first time ever. But as I look back today, I remember being a young kid in school. And I'd be in that classroom, the teacher would ask a question, she'd start looking around the room to see if she was going to ask to answer that question. And my head would go down like this. Oh, Jesus, don't let her ask me. Because I knew if she made eye contact with me, she's going to ask me to answer the question, and I don't want to answer the question. Doesn't even matter if I know the answer to the question, I don't want to answer it. When I went to school, we used to have to do book report, get up in front of the whole classroom full of kids. No good. I get up in the morning, I'd say, Ma, I've been sick, I've been puking all night, I can't go to school today, please don't make me go. Because I want to tell you that I would be terrified at the thought of getting up in front of that classroom full of kids. Every decision I made was based on fear. Most of it unfounded and ungrounded, but fear. Where I go, what I do, who I hang out with is all based on a comfort level. I don't know about any of you guys, but every now and then I get goofy. I go on about a 5-day run. I come home on a Sunday after being gone for 5 days. My wife would be sitting there waiting. I'd walk in, I'd say, sweetheart, that's it. No more. I know I said this last week, but this time I swear my ma's life, I'm never having another drink of whiskey as long as I live. I promise you. That's Sunday. I'd wake up Monday. I'd think to myself, I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. I'd have to go to a wedding that following Saturday. You ever go to a wedding sober? It's a bad deal. It is a bad. I would be at that church sweating, thinking about the reception that's going to start in 3 hours. I'm back at the reception and the dance is going to start and I don't have anything in me and my hands are sweaty. I got a knot in the pit of my gut. I feel awkward and out of place and it's horrible. And I have to do one of two things. I got to get over to that bar and get a couple drinks into me, or I got to get out of there because I can't stand the way I feel. And every decision I make is based on that fear. You want to know what kills an alcoholic like me? I don't even know I'm afraid. I think I'm afraid of nothing, and I'm afraid of everything, and I don't even know it. We talk an awful lot in these topic meetings. Let's discuss resentments tonight. Huh? Isn't that nice? I prefer to call it hate. Hate. Now, I know you're not that sick in Tennessee, but we are in Ontario, Canada. Hate. I'm the type of alcoholic, I'm in my car, and I'm at a red light by now, and I'm on the nod, and that light would turn green, and the guy behind me lays on his horn. Whoa. I almost go through the roof of my car. I want to get out of my car, go back there, open the door, drag him out by his throat, take a crowbar, and crack his skull open. Now, I know you nice people never thought thoughts like that, but I do. I'm not talking anger management here. No. I'm talking rage. I'm talking the kind of anger that you don't have 10 minutes before and you don't have 10 minutes after. But I have an anger that comes out every now and then that I can't control. And I say things to people or do things to people I never wanted to say or do. And let me tell you who takes the brunt of my rage. It happens behind closed doors. The people who love me take the brunt of my anger. Because you see, I'm constantly seeking your approval, so you don't display it there. You keep it for the people whose approval you think you already have. Lonely. I'm standing at a subway platform in downtown Toronto on a Friday night, all jacked up, and a train pulls up and the doors open and a young couple my age get off that train holding hands and walked off into the night laughing and smiling. And I looked at that couple and I felt like crying. I thought, why can't I be like those people? Why is all the trouble got to keep happening in my life time and time again? I'd just like to be with like other people. Guys, from as long as I can ever remember, I was restless, irritable, and discontented. If I was at this bar, I'd say, drink up, let's go to the other bar. If we're at this party, drink up, we're going down to that party. If I'm married to you, I should be married to her. Never quite right. And I'll tell you something, I get a couple of those double vodkas, it was just like, I did that in a meeting one night. 2 guys get up and left. They remembered the feeling. Let me tell you something. I'd have 2 or 3 of those vodkas and those sweaty hands would go away. That knot in my stomach's gone. The rage subsides and the loneliness vanishes. And I walk into that wedding like I own the joint. And I am moving and I am grooving. And I'm talking to the ladies and I'm sitting with my buddies and we're drinking and snorting and carrying on. And at that moment, everything in my life is absolutely perfect. Same wedding, same hall, same people, same music, same food, same everything. But you put 4 vodkas in me and my perception of reality changes. And I get an immediate, not in 28 days, an immediate sense of ease and comfort. And that is why I drink whiskey, because I like the effects it produces. But I'm an alcoholic. Something happens to me that doesn't happen to the non-alcoholic, called a phenomenon of craving. I end up drinking 60 ounces of vodka. I smash up a car. I go out after work for a few beers. I run into Doug. I come home 2 weeks later. I don't go to work. I lose my job. I tell my wife I'm going out for a loaf of bread. I run into Jerry. I come home 2 months later. My wife's leaving. I'm out there drinking, partying, carrying on. I don't want to stop. I got no money, so I'm stealing yours. And now I go to jail. And what everybody focused on in my life was crash cars, broken marriages, lost jobs, going to jails. We looked at drinking. We looked at drinking. We never looked at alcoholism. And people told me from the time I was 18 years old, if I just quit drinking whiskey, I'd be okay. And there was times I wasn't drinking whiskey, and guess what? I wasn't okay. As a matter of fact, I'm crazier sober than I ever was when I drank. But all those well-meaning people could see was that when I drank, the trouble that followed. So naturally, they said, stop drinking. You'll be okay. But those well-meaning people didn't understand how I feel when I'm sober. How could they know? I didn't know. I'd love to say to you tonight, I woke up one morning, HFC Finance was dying to lend me money. Work was thinking of promoting me, and my wife was sending me flowers. And I thought, I think I'll join AA today. Every now and then I hear some moron in one of these rooms say things like, if you're not here for the right reasons, you might as well drink. And every now and then I'd like to get that tire iron back out. The right reasons? Did you come to Alcoholics Anonymous, Jim, for the right reasons? I come to Alcoholics Anonymous because I had nowhere else to go. One more time, my back was against the wall. I was in a lot of trouble. And I thought, I got to come up with something good. I had a few tequilas. I turned my mind to it. And it came to me. I know what I'll tell them. I'm alcoholic. I'm going to go to AA. And that's how I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. And for those new folks here tonight, we couldn't care less why you're here. We couldn't care less. We're just glad to see you. And maybe by the grace of God, something you'll hear, something you'll read, and the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous can happen in your life. And you can go on to live a happy and useful life like so many men and women here have been doing. Just keep coming. And as I said in the beginning, I've been a blessed man since the day I came here. On September the 21st, 1989, two men came to my mother's house practicing Alcoholics Anonymous in its purest form. Now, that should tell you something right there, though, shouldn't it? My mother's house. Somewhere every 33-year-old self-respecting alcoholic should be is with his mummy. Two men came to my mother's house practicing Alcoholics Anonymous in its purest form. They made the effort to leave their homes that night. They drove to my mother's house, came to my mother's house, and talked to me about their drinking. They did not talk to me about my drinking. They did not tell me I shouldn't drink, I shouldn't drug, I should go to treatment. They didn't tell me nothing. Those two men came and talked to me about their drinking and told me what had happened in their lives since they came to something called Alcoholics Anonymous. Would I like to go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous with them? I was a helpless, hopeless, chronic alcoholic. I had been running the streets drinking whiskey and sticking needles in my arm since I was 13 years old. And those two men came to my mother's house that night, September the 21st, 1989, took me to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I have been with you ever since that night. I don't know what to tell you about that, but I want to tell you this. I'm extremely grateful for that experience, because that's not everybody's experience that comes to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I've been a rich, blessed man since that day till this. I have a deep love in my heart for the old timers. Deep, deep love. Men and women been coming for 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 years who've made sacrifices and commitments to Alcoholics Anonymous. So be here for a guy like me and those boys in the treatment center tonight. I love them from the bottom of my heart. And if you are new to Alcoholics Anonymous, I would strongly urge you to get close to these men and women and learn from their experience, because we won't have them with us forever. And I had some giants come into my life. I've heard people say you should never put people on pedestals. Well, you do what you need to do. But let me tell you something. I had some people on pedestals, giants in our program, giants. Never for a moment have I lost sight of their humanities. My sponsor was an old-timer in Alcoholics Anonymous. Annette, my sponsor came to Alcoholics Anonymous on July the 17th, 1958, and was an active member until the day he died on June the 10th, 2004. And the greatest gift that old man ever gave me, it wasn't some profound thing he pulled out of the book, some divine spiritual wisdom. The greatest gift that old man ever gave me was he allowed me to see his warts. He allowed me to see him get afraid. He allowed me to see him get angry. He allowed me to see him get selfish. He allowed me to see all of him, because if he hadn't, and you don't continue to, I will never measure up. We are much more brothers and sisters in our defects than we are in our virtues, aren't we? And I had some wonderful people come into my life. You see, you were the first people who helped me understand what my problem was. Because when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't know. Now, maybe you knew what your problem was when you got here, but I didn't have a clue. Now, I'd been told what my problem was. As a matter of fact, I had quite a few people tell me what my problem was. My parents had told me what my problem was. My wife had told me what my problem was. I had a couple judges tell me what my problem was, a couple of psychiatrists. I'd heard my whole life, just quit drinking, you'll be okay. But those people didn't understand how I feel when I'm sober. You were the first people that said to me, kid, drinking's not your problem, it's your solution. How I feel when I'm sober is my problem. You see, sober, I'm prone to misery and depression. Sober, I can't seem to control my emotional natures. Sober, I can't form true relationships with others. Sober, I'm full of fear and unhappy. Sober, I am restless, irritable, and discontented. Friends, that is a spiritual malady. And an alcoholic of my type, not drinking and not treating that, and sitting in AA meetings does not treat that. That's a great myth that kills many alcoholics. The meetings are where the fellowship is. The meetings are where the solution is. The 12 Steps Alcoholics Anonymous treat that spiritual malady. And a guy like me not drinking and not treating that, I will get so uncomfortable sober, I have to do one of two things, either drink again or blow my brains out. Most of us drink again, but we all know somebody who's paid the supreme price, don't we? Didn't have a clue. Selfishness and self-centeredness, you told me, was the root of my troubles. I didn't do an inventory and go, my, you haven't been a very nice boy. I did not need to inventory to find out I was a liar, cheat, and thief. I knew that, but I had no idea the depth of my selfishness and self-centeredness. I had no idea of how self manifests in my life and blocks me off from the power in many different ways, and I don't even know it's happening. Selfishness and self-centeredness, the root of my troubles, and from it comes 100 forms of fear and all my resentments, but all based in self. And you told me above everything, I must be rid of it or else it'll kill me. And there seems no way of getting rid of it without God's help. And that, you told me, is the purpose of our 12 steps. Through some actions that I take and some principles I try to live by, I can get connected to a power greater than myself that would solve my problem. I thank God for strong sponsorship. I am the product of strong sponsorship, and I believe in strong sponsorship, and I'm a guy that believes that without it, our chances of recovery are very, very limited. And I thank God. I would love to talk about that process, but it's not going to happen tonight. I talked about too many other things that weren't important. Anyway, the greatest thing you gave me is you introduced me to a loving God. I was never a disbeliever. When I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, if you would have said to me, do you believe in God? I would have said to you, yes, I do. It had as much meaning in my life as the price of coffee beans in Brazil, but I wasn't a disbeliever. And if you ask me about God, God was way up in heaven, had a long hair and a beard and a big stick. Chuck Chamberlain used to say, we have one problem and only one problem. And from that one problem comes all our other problems. But that one problem is a conscious separation from God. Well, if God's way up there and I'm down here, have you ever heard more of a conscious separation in your life? You were the first people who said to me, no, kid, deep down inside of every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. And in the final analysis, it is only there that he can be found. And the central fact of my life, the great reality, is my Creator has entered my heart and lives in a way that is indeed miraculous. You introduced me to that God through your stories and your actions. That's why we tell our story in Alcoholics Anonymous. That is the sole purpose of an AA talk, in our own language and from our own point of view, how we're able to find a power that would solve our problem. I thank God for that. It is the great joy. The central fact of my life, the great reality, is that my Creator lives in my heart. Incredible. You've done that. And the great paradox, if we want to give it, we got to give it away. Huh? We've been richly blessed, haven't we? If we ask the people on this screen tonight, how's your life since coming to Alcoholics Anonymous? You know the answers. It's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It's given me everything in my life. If that wasn't enough, you and I are then given the ability to change people's lives. That's not an ego statement. That is a statement with gratitude and humility. You and I, when armed with facts about ourselves and have this solution, are able to make the difference in a few short hours. We can win the entire confidence of another alcoholic. And until that happens, little or nothing can be done for them. We've been uniquely gifted to help others. Uniquely gifted. It says in our book to make sure that I'm going to tell one last story. Do I got time? One last story and let you all go home. It says in our book to make sure that our relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. Great events. Great events. I got asked to go to a conference a number of years ago in the west coast of Canada, out in British Columbia. And I went there. It was a weekend thing, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it was a small conference, a few hundred people. And I went and I was talking there on the Saturday night, and they had the countdown on Saturday night. Most of us have been to a countdown before, and we find the newest person in the room, and everybody screams and loses their mind. It's beautiful. I love it. And they did the countdown that night, and they got all the way down to one day. And there was a young gal I could see at the back of the room. I couldn't see her clearly, but I knew it was a young gal who stood up for one day, and everybody applauded and cheered, and it was great. The next day, the program said that there was going to be a breakfast at the hall and then a closing speaker. Well, I had a morning flight home, and I knew I couldn't catch all that meeting, but I thought I'd catch the breakfast and maybe part of the meeting. So we got to the hall, and we sat by the door so we could slip out and not interrupt the meeting. We were sitting there, and a young gal come walking in with two little children in her hand. And when she walked in, I saw her, and you knew she was new. There was no doubt. And you knew that she didn't have anything. You could tell the way these little kids were dressed. And she came in, and she came walking up. She said, "Are you Butch?" I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "You talked here last night." I said, "Yes, I did." She said, "Well, you said some things that helped me." I said, "Well, thank you very much." And I encouraged her to get a sponsor and join a group and that. And she went and she sat her two children down at the table beside us, and she walked up to the breakfast consisted of some tables with bagels and fruit on it. And she went up to get something for those kids to eat. And the thought came to my mind, Claudia, this might be the only food those children eat today. And it just ripped at my heart. And I thought, gosh, I wish there was something I could do maybe to be helpful. Maybe I could give her a few bucks to help her with her kids and that. And I'm sitting there and him and Han, and then the meeting started. So I thought maybe I wasn't supposed to. 10 minutes into the meeting, I got to get going. So I give my guy the nudge, and we're just going to leave. And just then the young gal gets up and walked outside, and I thought maybe this is my opportunity. So I go out and I said to the guy, "Go to the car, I'll be right with you." And the young gal's walking back and stopped, and I put a $100 bill in her hand, and she saw it and she started to sob. And she said, "You have no idea of what this means, not for her, for my children." She said, "I don't know how I could ever pay you back." I said, "You don't need to. But you stay here with us and do what we do, and maybe one day you can help a young gal in that same way." I come home. Now, when I got home, I told you, BlackBerry, I'm not technical. At that time, I couldn't even email. I didn't know how to email. My wife checked my emails for me. I don't have anything to hide anymore. So I'm home for a few days, and Dee says, "Butch, there's an email here you should see." And I go and I look, and it's a nice email from the gal. And she thanked me for it really helped her kids out. And she's trying to get an apartment. She hopes to go back to school, and she's doing okay. Sometime later, Dee says, "There's an email you should come and see. It's the gal." And she said to me, "I just wanted to thank you again for what you did for me. I have my own apartment now. I'm back in school. I'm going to try and go through to be a nurse. And next week I get my 1-year medallion." Wow, wow, wow. Last year, the year and a half ago, before the COVID started, I got a call from Kelowna, British Columbia. "Can you come out here and talk at our conference?" So I said, "Yes, I can." Dee says to me, "Butch, do you think there's any chance that gal will be there?" I said, "Well, it sure would be nice, Dee, but 90% chance she won't be. That's the nature of the illness you and I suffer from. This is a deadly illness." Anyway, I get out there and I'm in the hall that night and a gal comes walking up. She says, "Is your name Butch?" I said, "Yes, it is." She said, "You talked here 9 years ago." I said, "Yes, I did." She said, "When you talked, there was a gal got her one first day in AA." I said, "Yes, there was." She says, "I want you to know I'm her sponsor, and she's sober 9 years. And she is now married, and she's a nurse, and she lives in Calgary. And she saw a flyer with your name on it, and she just had surgery this week and couldn't come, and she made me come here to hug you for her and thank you." I get home from Calgary, and a few days later, from Kelowna. A few days later, there's a letter from Calgary. Well, I know who the letter is from. I opened the letter, and there was a beautiful letter thanking me for what I'd done all those years ago for her. You and I know it's not what I did. It's what God did. We're just the vessel. And anyway, she thanked me, and there was a picture of her and her 2 children at graduation, a beautiful family. And then there was another piece of paper that was folded. And I opened the paper, and there was a $100 bill and a note that said, "Butch, I would never do anything to offend you, but I wanted to send you this $100 that maybe you can pass it on to another young gal like you did for me." Alcoholics Anonymous. Make sure that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. To watch a fellowship grow up around us, to have a host of friends, to watch others get well and them in turn help others. This is an experience you'll not want to miss. If you're new to Alcoholics Anonymous, don't listen to this "just don't drink and go to meetings" crap. Get yourself a sponsor, get a home group, and roll up your sleeves and go to work. You know, and everything in my life that is good, anything that I am or ever hope to be, is because of Alcoholics Anonymous and men and women like you. If I lived to be 1,000 years old, I could never pay you back. You want to know the kicker? Robert, you've never asked me to. You've never asked me for a single solitary thing since the day I come to Alcoholics Anonymous. You've merely suggested to me, although at times strongly, that I give a little bit back of what's so freely been given to me. Take a new guy to a couple of meetings, show him a little love and comfort, maybe give him a hug and tell him he's going to be okay. I don't know how you feel about that, but it seems like a terribly small price for what's been given to me. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you, and God bless you.